Jerry Brown here with Jerry Brown Travels.
Laura here.
Don't be the 80% of the people that make this mistake who want to come here in Mexico.
Wow, sounds like a good subject, honey. You mind if I go for my walk now?
You want to go for a walk?
Yes.
Okay, go for your walk.
Okay, I can go for my walk. I need a 10,000 step a day. I've been quit for a couple of days already. Okay.
Okay, bye honey. Have
Bye.
a good day. That's nice. Recently, I had a phone consultation. Now, when I share a phone consultation with you, I don't mention the person's real name. I respect their privacy and I don't want to, use their name. So in this particular case, we're going to make up a name. They want to be anonymous, but we're going to call them Jim and Veronica. And they want to move down here. But before we get into that, I want to share with you some of the stuff that I get asked a lot of times. People want to move down here and they want to be prepared. So they'll ask me, well, what does it cost for food to live down here? What does it cost for restaurants? What should I figure for my transportation? Is there transportation? How much does it cost to take public transportation? Are there taxis down here? Are there restaurants? Or is there a variety of restaurants? Are there activities, let's say fun activities like hiking or kayaking or pickleball, stuff like that. They want to know that. They want to know maybe can they meet people? How friendly is it here? Is it safe in Mexico? Can I trust the Mexican people? They want to know all of these facts. They may ask me about buying a real estate, how to protect themselves from buying real estate, where should they live in Mexico, where's a safe place to live. They ask a huge amount of questions about that. But there's one thing that they don't calculate in their budget, and I want to share that with you in the later part of this video. Are you prepared? Do you have money set aside for a rainy day fund, for an emergency, something that comes up? Or are you cutting your budget so tight and you haven't figured that in here? This is a problem that a lot of people have who are coming down here and they want to live and they calculate their money to the penny almost on the things that we talked about. What's available, how much does stuff cost down here? But they don't figure in an emergency medical situation. So a lot of times people are not eligible for private medical insurance down here because of age or because they have a pre-existing conditions, and so they're not eligible for it. Well, about 40% of people that have been surveyed in the United States could not afford a hit or something coming up that would cost them $1,000 an emergency. That could even be a house repair. It could be medical issues. They don't even have the funds put away to cover a $1,000 medical issue or an emergency. And this is the things that I want to talk about here. How important it is to have emergency money set aside, because that happens down here, especially as you get older. You're having more chances of accidents. You never know. As an example, I was talking with Jim and Veronica about this situation, and we came down to realize they didn't have the money here to do that. Well, this is a topic that Jim and Veronica and I had when we were discussing what their finances were. And they didn't think about that because they're fairly healthy, they're young enough, and they haven't had that as a situation. So let's go over their numbers and see what they were thinking about. Here is my concerns with Jim and Veronica's plan of coming down to Mexico 3 years before collecting Social Security. They had enough money to live here, but they did not have any money saved for an emergency. So this $65,000 that they had saved and were planning on living on it for 3 years and then collect Social Security. The problem is you need an emergency fund. So by them saving the $65,000 and not spending it, waiting until their Social Security came in, they would be eligible for a higher Social Security, plus they would have $65,000 as a reserve emergency fund. So what my recommendation to Jim and Veronica was to wait so they could collect their Social Security, because having a reserve fund of $64,000, that is going to be able to carry them through for many years, and they won't have to worry about it, and they'll have this backup money, and that'll give them the reassurance and the comfort level of living here and not panicking. That is so important. In review, I've mentioned to Jim here, take that $65,000 and put it aside for an emergency fund, okay? Now, when I say that, that is a lot of money, but I'm looking at a 20-year or 25-year time horizon for Jim. He'll be 62, and so he has a lot of more years ahead of him. So taking that $65,000 and investing it in a Standard & Poor's 500 index fund or an ETF, that can give him a return average of about 10% annually, which means that's $6,500 additional income he has coming in, and he can use that for living expenses and, you know, having a better quality of life. And he's not taking away from that $65,000 nest egg. The great thing, if Jim and Veronica follow this formula and they take that $65,000, they don't live on it, but they invest it, and they get a return of, say, 10% investment. So that gives them $6,500 a year more. Add that onto their income of a Social Security of $24,000. They now have $30,500 to live, and they're going to live very well here. So by postponing gratification, you can see that it's much better in the long run for them. You never know about emergencies. Sometimes it's medical, but other times it could be a car situation, needs a car. It could be a situation where a tragedy happens, let's say in another state, and they have to leave here and they have to fly up there and pay for all of that expense. Well, that would come out of maybe that $65,000. Or it could even come from the $6,500 income that they have coming in. So I hope I clarified, the total plan that we've outlined here for him. So let's say you do have an emergency and you don't have the funds set aside from your overall budget, okay? So let's say that $1,000. What are you going to do? You need to go to the hospital. There's no way of getting around that. Maybe you are collecting Medicare, but you don't have time to go back to the United States to take care of that. I had a situation where I had an emergency situation down here. I didn't have time to go back to the United States and, make plane reservations, reserve a hotel or a car rental. I had to go to the emergency room now, and I was raced up there. Well, we don't have private medical insurance. So what did we have to do? We had to pay it out of pocket. We made a deposit. They would not let me into the hospital until I made a deposit, and then they allowed me to come in. Mexican medical, they have to stabilize you. If you don't have any money to be admitted into the hospital, they have to stabilize you, but they don't need to take you any further into the hospital to get the care. They're waiting for that money to come in. And so if you don't have it, you have an emergency situation. Maybe you break your arm, or you break a leg, or get in a car accident, whatever it is. That's the thing that really is scary if you don't have money set aside. And that's the important thing that I want to emphasize in this. Even so, you do all your due diligence and you think you're ready. So with Jim and Veronica, we went over the numbers with them, and we realized that they needed to wait till they received their Social Security, because they were able to save that initial money that they had set aside to live for the 3 years, and save that money aside. That way they would have that money as their nest egg, just in case there was an emergency. And that's what we recommend, having enough money set aside if there's an emergency. And then you're covered. If you can get into a hospital, you can get the care that you need. And so that's what my warning to you is, that it's not only getting, knowing what food costs, and there's good restaurants, or is it safe down here, are the sidewalks safe, and all of that other stuff. Yes, that's important, but the emergency fund is very important. This particular year, Lori was in the hospital for a gallbladder operation. Okay, that was about $4,500 for that. Also, she had a knee replacement. That was $6,500 for that. Now, with both of those cases, we could have went back up north and gotten it taken care of through Medicare. But because we don't have any residents up there, it actually would cost us more to go up there, get a hotel, an area that maybe has a kitchenette that we could, take care of her. So a lot of times it doesn't pencil out well to think that you can go up there. We find it is, because we do have that money set aside in an emergency, just to have the service done here and not worry about, going up north. But if you really need to, then yes, you would go up north if you have the time. But if you have a situation like I went through, where you were in an emergency situation, there was no time, then that backup rainy day fund is so important. I hope you'll put money away. I'll help you think about this. Don't jump the gun too quick, thinking you need to come down here. Maybe you think, well, my dream is getting, evaporated because the prices are going up and everything else. Well, be prepared. Make sure you're really thinking it through. And I hope this video has helped you to realize the backstory on what does happen here when you live here full time. Hey, if you would like to book a phone consultation, at the end of the video, there's a little box that pops up that says book now. If you press on it, you'll be sent over to a booking site. Check that out. I know I can help you, just like I helped Jim and Veronica, solve their problem and give them a realistic idea of what they can expect down here. And take away sort of the rose-colored glasses. They were hoping that they could come down 3 years earlier, and I basically said, I wouldn't do that. They're young enough, they can wait, and so that's my advice. And so, hey, give me a phone consultation, reservation, and we'll talk about subjects like this. Thanks. This is Jerry Brown with Jerry Brown Travels.